Man, I got notes. So much happened. I had to go back and
You,
skim through and take notes.
I did the same thing too. It's just like with these episodes, it's so crazy because I appreciate this about the show. It's very simple, right? They'll take a simple premise, very basic premise, but then they have so much icing and everything and toppings on top of it that it makes this a full meal, even though it was just like this little simple cake, but it became this big old, decadent dessert because they have all these extra toppings that makes it full. And that way the cake is basic, is non-offensive, but then you could have all this extra stuff going on top of it. And I like that they do that because sometimes they'll just be too complicated, right? And then you either like it or you don't like it. Versus if you keep it simple and you just kind of decorate it extra fancy, then you got a little something for everybody, and you're not having it where it's just too much going on, and you can't scrape it off because it's the cake that you don't like, not the toppings.
Right?
You gotta dump the whole cake. But I did go back and I was like, I almost more felt it than noticed what actually was being said, really taking it in. So after second viewing, I'm like, yeah, okay,
Sometimes just the tone is enough to carry it.
Yes, so you just riding a tone versus actually, oh, this was said. Oh, this happened. Oh, what was that pause for? What was the nuances? So I really went back for those nuances. And as much as I caught the first time, the second time was like, oh wow. And it wasn't even a hard watch to go back because sometimes you see stuff once, it's just like, okay, I survived it the first time. I'm not going back in.
Yeah,
You
no,
can't make me go back.
I could definitely see there's bits, if not like whole episode, where like could watch most of the. So just let it run.
Yeah.
Just let it run. There's definitely enough there.
And then also these two episodes went together really nicely.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah. No, I'm glad because we were talking about like it's the do we do one episode? Do we wait
Hmm.
for another one? Da, da, da. It was like the last one, stuff happened,
Yes.
but is also not a ton.
Hmm.
It felt like it was just getting going, and then we see the stuff play out in five, and I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah,
Right. Right. And it was a great tie together of everything too in a different kind of way. It's funny. I guess we're decent amount within the series. I guess we're on episode what, 5?
yeah. Yes.
Episode 5, but it seemed like there's so much stuff behind it that got tied up. I don't know. So yeah, it seemed like it's kind of coming together, and all the pieces you've been seeing kind of like started fitting together, and it's just like, oh, they're doing this already. So it just, I guess they're just making room for something even bigger. I think that's what that is.
They're doing lots. They're doing lots. We should probably start the show.
Okay. I think so. I think so too. I think so too. All right, let's do it. Five, four, three, two. All right, I'm Jay. I'm back again with another one. And tonight I have with me
Captain Herpy Derp?
Captain Herpy Derp.
Not Herpy Derp. Herpty Derp. Totally different.
No cure for me in sight. I won't go without a fight. I'm the herpes, the herpes. See you in hell, motherfuckers.
One is much more questionable. How about you get that title? I occasionally misspeak,
Did I say Herpy Derp?
so I feel it. I was listening
I
to
hope I didn't say that.
just put out episode 3 the other day that we did, and I was like, oh wow, I called the Mines of Mandalore the Mines of Moria from Lord of the Rings as a slip. Like,
It happens, especially with all the history and all the plots and subplots and names and the history and the backstories and all that kind of stuff. That's almost kind of like somebody who is a stuntman, tripping on the sidewalk. You kind of forgive him. He does all this other
right?
incredible stuff that he survives. So everybody trips up every once in a while. So I would even,
It's not
yeah.
the Olympics. It's not the Olympics.
But yeah. So no, I find myself too when I'm listening back, like, oh, I said that wrong. But yeah.
Don't worry, I did my homework because there's like so much to unpack. I've got theories.
All right, and let's do this proper. So, chapter 20, The Foundling / Jar Jar's Redemption.
Throw in the theme music. Yo, I was not ready for that. I was so not ready for it.
Yeah. This episode was an interesting surprise. It was directed by Carl Weathers, once again, which I love his directing style. I love his energy in the episode. Even when it's not a lot going on, I still like his direction and the vibe of his episodes.
Surprisingly, it starts off with no like thrust to it. It's just like, hey, the Mandalorians are training, they're shooting the water, and
Right.
like
They're back on that beach where bad things seem to happen every episode.
well, after this episode, certain things click into place, and it's like, oh, okay, now I kind of understand why they're there. We'll get into it because it's something they drop in towards the end, but like essentially like not quite a training montage, but it's like everyone's out there training to be badass Mandalorians, and it's like, why are you guys shooting the water? Like there was just small stuff, but essentially what happens is Grogu has to go and show him what you can do, kid. And everyone's like, that's a baby. And it's like, nah, hey, he's my foundling. I get to say he's ready to do the thing. And they're like, are you sure? And even me, I'm like, are you sure? Like, I know in my head, Grogu can just force chuck this kid.
Right.
Which is like, yeah, okay. But they have this whole weird thing where it's like, okay, you and the kid that got christened, I think in the first episode, like you're gonna have a duel. And the kid picks like wrist blasters, they're little paintballs.
Yeah.
And it was odd because like Grogu's like, am I what? He gets shot once, and then he gets shot with the other paintball.
Right.
And of course, then Grogu's like, I guess I got to do this. And then when they call start on the third one, he just like triple backflips over the kid behind him, triple backflips back over the kid in front of him, and just like bop, 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 shoots all 3 of his wrist blasters on the kid.
Right.
Like,
I understood what they were doing. The whole thing with, Flex and showing his powers and stuff, and showing that, he's underestimated, and we all know what he could possibly do, along with his father. But it was kind of like he kind of cheated, I know he used what he had, but he kind of cheated.
Right.
And then I'm like, was he really should be able to, shoot him 3 times in a row? Don't you supposed to like have like, point and then reset the game, reset the game?
Why didn't the other kid just shoot him 3 times in a row to begin with?
One or the other, but it was still cute. It's funny how much you forgive when you have like something cute like Grogu that you enjoy seeing. You kind of let stuff slide. You understand what they were trying to do as far as like having that situation come up.
I think something with, I don't know, maybe just the camera work, like could have worked better. I can't articulate it more than that, but it just felt odd. And it might have just been the fact that it felt like Grogu was being forced to do something he didn't want to do. But I think what that sets up is all the other Mandalorians are now like, oh, that's just not like some little rinky-dink little tiny kid that Din has. Like, I think this is the first time they've seen Grogu use the Force. Right? Because I think all the other times it's, been other characters. So that might also be why we get the scene with the armor later, which, triggers a flashback, which we'll talk about. But the thing that ends that scene is we get a kidnapping, and it's another giant monstrous creature.
We should call it Disaster
As we find
Beach.
out, it's not the first person, and I don't think not even the first kid, maybe, this flying creature, it's called a Shriek-Hawk.
Oh, okay.
It's not the first one that they've kidnapped. We see later in its nest, there's a Mandalorian helmet. So, like, wouldn't be what I would be doing if it was, my foundlings, my kids, my friends. I'd be like, why the fuck are you hanging out here? But as I will get to, I think I understand why they're there. It's probably a couple reasons, but
Yeah, with as many disasters that commonly happen in that location, to still hang out there when you have other choices or other parts of that planet, there has to be other places where they could stay. It just seemed like, why would you just go back like business as usual with this craziness? And then even with the situation when the kids get taken by the I guess the space pterodactyl,
the Shriek Hawk.
the Shriek Hawk. It's kind of like when they go to follow the Shriek Hawk, you see something that I've never seen before for the first time, which is that their jetpacks is run out of fuel. And on top of that, this happens all the time, right? So if this is happening all the time, wouldn't you let the person know who has the ship, like, hey, follow us. We normally run out of fuel, or just follow us in your ship. And when we fall out of fuel, you can keep going. I understood and I understand. And then the fact that they just, like you said, just loosely be like, this happens this isn't the first time. This is like a thing. Like, oh, we just ran out of gas. Oh, well, like, huh? Like,
even before the running out of gas, this has happened before. So if you're going to have people outside, there needs to be one or two people that are just designated lookouts.
Yes.
And all their job is to go, oh shit, here it comes. Like,
right. Or
that's it.
Have the jetpack, the other jetpack, or the spare jetpack that you pack on you, or the extra fuel that you pack onto you, or the ship ready to take off if in this situation you need to follow. They were too far along. We got a
quick thinker, and Bo-Katan is like, yeah, I'm not gonna catch that with my jetpack. Good thing I got this badass spaceship over here. I'm gonna go hop in that. And so they're able to track it all the way back.
It's funny that she knew that, being new, and they, who keeps going through the same tragedy, didn't think to resolve it in that way. But it was fun. It was what it was.
A funny thing about, like, a bad thing happened. Maybe we should plan around the bad thing maybe happening again. Mm-hmm. Someone was two things related to the Obi-Wan show. So one, side tangent, someone went and redid like 90% of the visual effects for that movie and actually like reshot their own green screen stuff, and it looks way better.
What happened?
For the Obi-Wan show.
Yeah.
Like, it's a special effects guy. I think he might actually like work on other Star Wars stuff.
Okay. But
it looks way better. And the other thing that he did, and we're getting closer now to the original thing, is the Fortress Inquisitorius, or Fortress Inquirius, whatever it was, where the Inquisitors are, and they took Leia, and Obi-Wan broke her out. He went back to the first time it showed up, which was Jedi Fallen Order, the video game, which I talked about before.
Right.
And they had, for the Obi-Wan show, changed the design. It was still that like very steep pyramid, but it had a huge section cut out of it all, and like it was way more like knight with two giant moons. He just made it look fucking dope.
Wow.
But the other thing that came up as I was sort of looking at this is someone was talking about how those two instances of Jedi Fallen Order and Obi-Wan both involve a break-in of the fortress.
Mm-hmm.
Both times a Jedi swims in underwater and comes in from below and causes massive havoc, right?
Right.
You'd think they'd have better defenses for the Obi-Wan thing. So like one thing that happens in Jedi Fallen Order is they actually had, I think, 2 Star Destroyers in orbit. And the only way the characters got past it is because they had a Night Sister, like dark side user, that basically cloaked their ship using the Force, and that's how they got past. But in the Obi-Wan show, there's no orbital defenses. Anyway, it's one of those things where like, whoa, why would the Empire be consistent? Why would the Mandalorians do the smart thing and put 2 people on watch? It's one of those things where it's like, doesn't ruin the story, but it just like for people that overthink things like hello, hi, overthinker. It's just like again, it makes them look slightly incompetent maybe, or just like kind of crazy, or just like, yeah, things attack us, we got to be ready for it.
And that was my problem with Wakanda Forever. Namor
Like,
just kept popping up. Namor just kept popping up in Wakanda.
Right. So the interesting thing so Bo followed, and like there's its nest. We can, we can't really use our jetpacks because it's gonna hear us coming. We can't fly in, so they're like planning this mission, and she's like, me and Din, we're definitely gonna go.
Right.
And then the armor is like to Paz, that's the big brute with the chain gun.
Right.
She's like, take the Shriekhawk training team. They have a Shriekhawk training team, which becomes relevant at the end of the episode because they capture the Shriekhawk's little hatchlings, like 3 of these giant hatchlings that's like 6 feet tall, because they're going to train them to ride them, because the Mandalorians come from a planet with very, very large creatures, and the Shriekhawk is from Mandalore.
Oh.
So this planet, this moon, whatever they're on, is vaguely in proximity to Mandalore, and someone brought it here at some point, and probably some of the other megafauna as well. And that's probably why they know of this place. But it's also why no one else is around, because you get attacked by megafauna. So the other fun thing with this is the Shriekhawk is the sigil for Mr. Chain Gun's clan, the Vizsla clan. That is their sigil.
Huh.
So that's kind of ironic, as it turns out later, the kid that got snatched is his son.
Yes.
Right? Which is a thing we find out after, like, what is it? I think it's like, oh yeah, they get all the way up to the nest. They climb all the way up. We're skipping a few things. They climb all the way up, and then they're like, we got to make sure it's not around. We got to see if we can find him. And then Paz just like, oh, he's over there. I'm gonna go get him. They're like, wait, we got to make sure it's safe. He's like, he's my son.
Right.
Like, oh, you come on, Dad. Like, you could have said that sooner.
Right.
Like,
he's in a nest making all that noise, and they trying to scope it out, and he's up there. Trevor, are you there? Not that the kid name is Trevor, but Trevor, are you there? And of course he wakes up the birds. It's just like, what are you doing, dude?
Man.
Are you in here, man? Okay, so what gets me is that once they got to the mountain where, on the bottom of the mountain where the nest is, they had to camp out there overnight, right? So
I saw this critique.
so it baffled me when
it's your kid. Why are you waiting?
Not only that, but the kid was still alive for the Shriekhawk to drop it off. Like, okay, so that means that the mother flew around with that kid in her mouth all night to deliver.
That's right, 'cause she spit him up.
An alive kid, spit him up, a live kid for her babies the next day. Like, what was she doing all night?
This is also why it's so good that he was wearing his helmet, because it insulated him from all the stomach acids. Like, ay.
Oh boy! But it was
that kid must have had a really rough time trying to go to sleep inside the thing's gut.
It was just, but it was still shot well and done well. But it was just funny. The story was just kind of, I could see how, if you just turn your brain off and just kind of watch it, it's fun. But then also, like I said, if you're a kid watching it, you wouldn't even think twice of none of that. It just, that all makes sense. That's just how that is.
Yeah. Yeah, but, you can wait. Wait.
But since we were watching it with one as a fan and two as somebody who's going to talk about it and review it later, we kind of got to pay attention, and we kind of got to put the pieces together. And so, things that if we were just lightly watching for entertainment, we might roll our eyes at, but then as people that are reviewing it, we have to kind of bring it up when discussing our overall thoughts about it. But it's funny.
Nitpicks.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's so funny too about sort of it being Paz Vizsla's son.
Yeah.
And that it's a Shriekbat, which is his sigil. So I think I touched on this earlier, like someone else from his clan, pre-Vizsla, was the one that teamed up with Bo-Katan to start a civil war, right? And going way back, the first Mandalore was Tare Vizsla, a Jedi Mandalorian that makes the Darksaber. And man, the Vizslas have just been fucking up ever since, because they apparently are just the fucking hotheads that are just like, we should be fighting all the time. Like,
Wow.
if you think of like somehow Mandalorian as like Mandalorians plural as sort of like the ancient Greeks, it's like they're the Spartans. They're the ones that are just hardcore all the time. Now, to my research that I did, because I was pretty sure I got something wrong about Bo-Katan. So I mentioned last time, pre-Vizsla, Bo-Katan, their group was called the Children of the Watch.
Okay.
And so eventually, they came across and rescued Darth Maul and his brother with the very subtle naming of Savage Opress. Swear to God.
That's crazy.
So creative, George. So eventually, they kind of like realize that they have common enemies. Like Maul at this point basically wants revenge on the Emperor. So there's a little bit of like we can work together, and then basically I think Pre-Vizsla betrays them. They come back and challenge him and kill him, and they split the Children of the Watch. So Pre-Vizsla's dead. Some of the Children of the Watch go with Maul, because Maul is like Pre-Vizsla, all about fucking shit up.
Yeah.
And then Bo-Katan splits away at that point, and she forms the Night Owls, and that's what her sigils on her helmet are. That's why it looks like two eyes up above with a beak.
Yeah.
That's, so I got that wrong. But that makes it a little bit different than she was on board with Darth Maul, because once that happened, she's like, peace, I'm out. Nope, not about this. And here's the other fun bit. So I think they're like what, Mandalorian special, like super commandos, are what the Mandalorians are that followed Maul, right? They switched the coloring to red. Some of them modified their helmets to have horns like Darth Maul.
Oh, that's dope. That's dope.
Right? But coming back now, everyone following along, coming back now to this show, and I don't know why I didn't make this connection earlier, and it's probably because I just didn't watch the Clone Wars when all this was going on. The armor has horns on her helmet.
Yes.
And their group is called Children of the Watch. Paz Vizsla is part of them, and Pre-Vizsla's group with Bo-Katan is Death Watch. Death Watch, Children of the Watch. So there might be a lot more connections with that group and the Children of the Watch that Din is part of.
Okay.
Now that's my conspiratorial thing, that the armor might have been involved in some of that. Whether or not that's going to affect anything going forward, we'll see. We'll see when we get to the end of episode 5. So before they do the rescue, you're talking about they waited, right? They gotta wait at night. They have the campfire, and there's this whole thing where Bo's like, they're like passing out the food, and she's like, "How do you guys eat?" And it's like the saddest thing. It's like, oh, we all just go and find a private corner and take our helmets off and eat alone. And it's like, yo,
right.
That's you guys are not healthy. But the like, that's a little bit of sprinkling of like more of the culture and all that sort of stuff. But the interesting point, like I'm sure the whole reason of that scene is like Bo's getting up to like, you know, go and find her own spot away from the campfire.
Right.
And Paz Vizsla is like, no, you're the war party leader.
Yeah.
You get the honor of staying at the fire. So it's one thing if she had been just like, oh, you're new, okay, cool, you're helping out. But it's like, no, this is happening because of you.
Yeah.
You're in charge. You get to stay by the fire. So it's a very big sort of tonal switch, because has for the most part has been not friendly to everyone.
Right.
Right? He doesn't, for the most part, doesn't give Din the time of day, challenged him for the Darksaber. Like, he's aggressive and kind of ambitious, kind of like pre-Vizsla, and look where that got him, killed by Maul. So it is a switch in how at least he is interacting with Bo-Katan.
Yes, and they're using his personality in the right places in the right way to make a certain point. It's almost kind of like how they use Worf in Star Trek.
Reading my mind, I was literally about to say it's like a weird version of the Worf effect.
That's funny.
Right? Because it's, you know, instead of the, we need someone to come across and as a badass, have him beat up our badass. It's like,
right.
No, we're going to have our jerk, who's been a jerk to everyone, not be a jerk and give respect. And that means so much more. So, yeah,
Yes.
it was
Beautifully done.
It's good.
I think it's great too that Bo-Katan get a chance to kind of earn her place with them. We've seen so many things where one little simple thing or one thing changes the thoughts and minds of people around them and all that. She's literally piece by piece, either reluctantly or accidentally, is going further along within the group, you know. Even her placement as far as like being the leader, because she took charge to find the kid. So, okay, well, you got the furthest, you are leading the situation. Right. So even with all that, it's just nicely how, you know, how, like I said, she's like looking up and she's just finding herself progressing further along. And it's not even like a sneaky kind of thing. It's kind of like
she's just doing what she would normally do.
Exactly.
She doesn't change any of her moves.
Exactly.
These are her moves.
Exactly.
It's kind of like an actual sort of meritorious recognition of like, yeah, no, you're good. Here, you can be in charge. Cool. And then we get the cut back to the armor having a conversation with Grogu about continuing his training, and she's forging him a new piece of Beskar.
Right.
I saw things online. It's not a big piece, but for his body size, it like covers his whole chest. And I saw so many things of like, dude, someone's gonna fucking shoot Grogu in the chest, and the Beskar is gonna ping.
Right.
Like he's gonna wear it underneath, and we're gonna have a moment of and it's like, oh right, he's got the Beskar. Okay.
Yeah.
But I forget like the particulars of what sort of she's talking about. But it triggers another flashback for him.
Yeah, she was kind of giving the history as she was going along with the making of his armor.
Oh, Mandalorian history, yeah.
Yeah.
Which brings up his history, and then we get the extended Order 66 flashback. And man, I was not ready for this. And it's not so much the like, oh, the trauma of Grogu. It's who saved his ass.
Right.
It kind of picks up like because he had the vision. I forget. I think it was Book of Boba Fett, right? He had the flashback with Luke, and he kind of just had the scene of a, fuzzy hallway with some Jedi getting killed, and that was mostly it. And so it pretty much picks up from there. We pretty much see the same sort of four Jedi. Takes a little bit longer, but they go down, and he gets shoved basically into a turbo lift. Turbo lift goes up, and when it opens, there's a Jedi there waiting for him, and clearly like waiting specifically for Grogu. Like it's a thing that the Jedi are trying to get Grogu in particular out.
Right.
Why? Question mark.
Okay,
but he picks up a fallen lightsaber, and I'm sure everybody knows it by now, but it's Ahmed Best who played Jar Jar Binks.
Right.
And the funny thing is, it's not technically a new character.
That's what I heard.
He's played this character before because like what was it? It was a YouTube show like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and it was basically like Temple Run from back in the day on Nickelodeon, where it's like they're playing like little obstacle course challenges with kids, and they're all like Padawans, and he's playing. I got the name. Who is it? Kelleran Beck.
Yep.
Right. So it's him. Door opens. He's looking grizzled. He's got some definite 5 o'clock, maybe 10 p.m. shadow on his face, and he takes apart some stormtroopers. Like, he genuinely gets a badass, like, multiple badass moments. They did him so right.
They
Like,
did. It was a little OP, but everything he went through, he deserves that. You know what I mean? You could tell. You could see the literal overcompensation, but it's just like, but you deserve it. but
right?
But you deserve it though. After all you went through, let him have
apparently, like, part of the character's established backstory is he's called the Saber Fist. Right? Because he's like such a great combatant and he's a dual wielder. And it's just like, okay, wow. I don't care. Go with it. Go with it. And so for anyone that doesn't know part of why this is a big deal, it's not just like, hey, it's the guy that played Jar Jar Binks back in the day. Right. Is like, he as an actor got so much shit for Jar Jar. Not like, hey, we didn't like your performance. They didn't like Jar Jar the character, and a lot of people took it out on him. Yeah. Same thing happened with Jake Lloyd, who played young Anakin. Like, they didn't like the 6-year-old. So let's take it out on the actor. And Ahmed Best, like, I think it was a few years ago, he had an interview come out where, like, he was like, no, like, there's a spot I take my kid out on the bridge, right? Because that was the spot, like, X number of years ago, I almost committed suicide because I was dealing with all this backlash. Wow. And, like, you know, my career wasn't in a good place, and, like, he almost killed himself. He genuinely almost killed himself, and he didn't. And so now that spot on the bridge is where he broke away from that and started sort of rebuilding himself and just shoving away, you know, all that negativity. Wow. But for Star Wars to bring him back, and it's not the first time, he had a small role in, like, the Clone Wars movie, like a bit part. But this is, like, really allowing people to come back to the actor. Yeah. Right? So I think it works even if somehow you didn't know who that was, right? It just sort of works of, like, here's this Jedi, here's this great action sequence. He's trying to get him away from the Jedi Temple. He's getting shot down out of the sky by, like, stormtroopers, barely lands on a platform where there's a waiting Naboo ship with troopers, and I think all the Naboo troopers, like, fight off or try to fight off the clone troopers that land right on their tail, and it's just to give him and Grogu time to get on the ship and fly away. Right. And they jump to hyperspace after they get to orbit. But so clearly it's like, well, there'll be more. Where are they going? All that sort of stuff. But
that escape scene where they're flying through the city, that was beautiful.
Yeah,
like going through the city
it looked like the prequels version of Coruscant.
Yes, it's done very well. I really enjoyed that.
And of course, now there are people thinking, well, that's a Naboo ship. And who, at that point in time, is the senator from Naboo? Jar Jar Binks. So some people are like, wait a minute. Is Jar Jar Binks working with Jar Jar Binks to save Grogu? And it becomes, I think, this larger question now of, like, why are they all trying to save Grogu? Like, it's one thing for the Empire to be interested in, but it seems like the Jedi somehow knew or thought he was special, right? Worth getting out instead of, we've got to get everyone out, right? It seems very coordinated and specific. So that's clearly, like, they're teasing more and stringing us along, and that's fine. Right. So we'll have to see how that goes. And then Grogu's like, more flashback.
Yeah, it was really good. I guess flashback layer storytelling that was incorporated in the middle of a different story sandwich. And so after that segment of the flashback, we get back to the mission. The kid has been saved. The level of competency of the Mandalorians vary episode to episode, scene to scene. Even though some of them, they did some nice moves as far as, like, tying up the wing of the space pterodactyl. They have this fight of, while trying to get the kid loose, Paz gets halfway eaten. He's in the mouth of the pterodactyl as it's flying. So that pterodactyl is taking out the whole family at one time. They got the kid trying to crush and feed him, and then the dad is in the mouth, trying to get swallowed. And so this is rescue mission that's kind of, they're trying to work it out, and they do end up working out. And it's just kind of funny that
Bo-Katan's the key player because she's the one that gets in close and stabs it in the eye.
Yeah, so he could drop the dad and
drop the dad and the kid.
And she flies. Yeah, and she saves them. But
I do like that Din catches the kid midair, right?
Yes.
Has the jetpack down to catch him.
Yes.
And then lands with the kid next to Paz. And again, Din doesn't make a clean landing. It's kind of rough. Right. But then I'm remembering like, oh right, it was only like season 1 that he got the jetpack. A lot of the other Mandalorians like got their jetpacks a long time ago. I feel like Din is like the poor kid Mandalorian. So it's no surprise that it's like, okay, yeah, he hasn't quite learned how to fly that thing yet.
And so the whole situation kind of ends with the mama pterodactyl getting eaten by the turtle gator.
Right. Quite the callback.
Yes, very, very much so. Yeah, so I thought that was very interesting. And no sooner than I start thinking like, man, so what about the babies? Then we have a scene where they're coming back to camp and Bo-Katan mentions that they're
gonna train them.
Yeah, that they have some new foundlings that they want to train, and the three birds the three pterodactyl birds comes out of the ship, and welcome to the clan.
The Mandalorians like writing stuff, so I remember there's old Dark Horse Star Wars run. And it's from, it's thousands of years ago. I don't think it's Tare Vizsla. I think it's a different Mandalore, the leader of Mandalore. But they're causing havoc and invading and da-da-da-da-da. But they have essentially these cyborg sort of animal steeds. Not quite in a horse configuration. They're like size of elephants, if not bigger, and they just got like weapons bristling here and there, and they fly and all this sort of stuff. So it's definitely like a thematic thing where they ride into battle on animals or things like that. So it makes more sense, and it sort of goes to, again, why they're probably there is because they're probably trying to catch those things and train them and be like old school Mandalorians. And because those monstrous things are there, no one else is there, right? So they don't expect anyone else to come stumbling into camp, like in episode 5. It makes more sense that they're there.
Yeah, that's cool. So we saw like during the battle, Bo-Katan ended up losing a piece of armor. So she is called in to see about getting that piece of armor replaced. Now, it's asked, would you like the same symbol that you had before?
Right.
But she had a special request. Her request was to add the symbol of the mythosaur, to have that engraved on the piece of armor.
Right. And
it was told to her that it wouldn't be wrong for her to have that symbol, and the symbol is for all Mandalorians.
Right. Anyone want to use it.
At this time, she confesses to seeing, not having a vision.
Yeah, she clarified because the armor is like, oh, you've been blessed with
right.
True Mandalorians have, visions of like blah blah blah, and she's like, no.
I saw a real one.
No, I saw a real one. I ain't no vision. And oddly, the armor's response is kind of cryptic, of like, this is the way, and it's just like, no. What the fuck do you mean? This is the way, like. So it's interesting because, like, Bo-Katan doesn't seem to be revealing that as like a move. Doesn't feel like it's as a move where she's like, hey, there's the myth of the mythosaur, and when it comes back, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. She's not talking about it in that way. She doesn't seem to be approaching it in that way, where she saw a mythosaur and she knows its importance, and that's probably why she wants it for the pauldron, because like, holy shit, I've seen this thing and it's important to me. But she's not trying to present it as like, I'm the chosen one or whatever. It's just like, holy shit, no, I saw an actual mythosaur. And the fact the armor just takes that in fucking stride, just like, yeah, I guess it's back. This is a way. Just like, Come on. No reaction? No?
Right.
And I don't know if that's supposed to be the armor playing games on her own, or if it's just like, yeah, the myths are true. The mythosaurs are back. Like, and she's just so on board with whatever's going to happen. So it's still one of those things of like, I was expecting a little bit more from the armor, because it's like, wait, the mythosaur's back? Right? Because presumably the prophecy would mean something to the armorer. But I don't know. We'll have to see. There's some interesting stuff starts to percolate next episode.
With the armorer, like, I always, since the beginning of seeing her, always never had a clear read on her. It's like almost like I always thought she was shady, but I didn't see that she had any reason to be shady, and she always kind of came through to offset it. I just didn't know if she was supposed to be like a Morpheus type of character that speaks cryptically, but it's only to help you find your own insight, leading you without leading. But I can't really tell with her. So part of me was kind of like, if in a different world, I would have thought she was a bad guy. But in this one, she never confirmed that. And so I just took her as being, like I said, a wise person that kind of seen a lot. And that's just the way she kind of speaks. But, you know, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know. Like the whole thing where it's like, now that I see this connection between Death Watch and Children of the Watch, she's got the horns. I still never quite got like a vibe of malice or anything from her. Like,
no.
She seems like absolutely 100% legit of like, we need to protect Mandalorians, and to do that is to live by the creed.
Yeah.
Now, some of that might be because maybe she was or was not part of Maul's group, or she saw just all the Civil War stuff that happened with the Mandalorians. Is like, that was all the wrong way of doing things. Yeah. That's why the creed is so important to her, right? Mm-hmm. And she is cryptic, but I feel like she's a little bit less of a mentor. Like Morpheus is like clearly a mentor of like, I'm gonna say cryptic things to you because I have to give it to you piecemeal, because if I tell you the whole thing, you're gonna lose your mind and puke on the floor of my ship. Mm-hmm. But with the armor, I feel like, dude, you've read the creed. I'm just gonna repeat to you the creed and remind you that the creed is important, because this is what we need, right? Yeah. And it's like, there might be bits of perspective that she gives, like with talking with Grogu, but it's, I think, less of a mentor. I don't know, it seems like the Mandalorians are very much like Spartans, and like, we're just gonna put you through some arduous shit, and when you come out the other side, you'll be a Mandalore, or you'll be dead.
Oh no, the reason why I said that is because, okay, so usually, like I said, she'll see stuff, or you tell her stuff, and she's very dry. Like the whole thing, like the possibility, you would think somebody who thought that Mandalore pretty much didn't exist anymore, it was uninhabitable, and this person is bringing you a piece of it, saying it could be there, and the comment is kind of like, if it's there, if you jump in the pool of Minnetonka, you know what I mean? And I'm not knocking it, but it's just funny how nothing seems to throw her off. She's just very, you know,
it's like she's on Xanax or something.
And it's not bad, but it's just funny because no matter what comes up, even the possibility of that lake still being there,
right?
It's not like, and she wasn't dismissive. Like, what do you mean? Are you crazy? That lake is no longer there. The waters is no longer. She didn't say that. She was kind of like, show and prove. If you, you know, hey, I think I have evidence. Well, you know what you need to do then.
Also, no one's like, oh my God, Mandalore's not poisoned. We should go back.
Exactly. So this was the first time I ever seen where she kind of made an action based off of what was told to her. Like, it's been brought up and kind of said things, and she just kind of like takes it like, okay, you know, that kind of thing. So later on, we get some like confirmation that not only does she hear things, she also moves based off of them if she feels she needs to, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that was chapter 20, The Foundlings. Hey, it's Jay. If you enjoyed my conversation with Ryan, please check out our episodes where we talked about The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, Spider-Man No Way Home, and the movie Batman. Thanks for listening, and until next time, peace.